8:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Earlier in the radio broadcast, we were talking about whether or not America is a failing country. Because Donald Trump, he has said a number of different times that it is a failing country. And, Joe Biden, under Joe Biden's administration, clearly there is a lot about our country that is failing. And so I started thinking about this, as I tend to do. And I was thinking, well, who's right? Is Donald Trump right? And is America a failing country? Or is Joe Biden right? Now, this is what Donald Trump said. I'm going to play it for you real quick, because we had some really good super texters that had some really great points. This is what Donald Trump has said in the past.
We are a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. And we can't let that happen.
And so now Joe Biden he's out on the campaign trail. And this is what he said in response to Donald Trump.
My predecessors like to say, America is a failing nation. In my faith, bless me, Father, for his sin. I mean, come on. A failing nation. And by the way, did you hear he wants to see the stock market crash? Because he does not want it now. We're doing well. He acknowledging by that we're doing pretty damn well economically and getting better. He wants to see the stock market crash. You know why? He doesn't want to be the next Herbert Hoover. As I told him, he's already Hoover. He's the only president to be president for 4 years and lose jobs, not gain any jobs. Come on, man. Some of the things he said, well, I don't get started.
So you'll note a couple of things. Number one is when the president talked about the former president and said, well, he's like Herbert Hoover, all the lost jobs. Well, the reason why Donald Trump lost jobs was because of COVID. So that's beside the point, but you heard Biden talk about how we're not a failing nation. Donald Trump says that we are. And I just started riffing about whether or not we are a failing nation, because I think that there's a lot of merit to the argument that Donald Trump makes that we are a nation that is currently failing under Joe Biden. So we are currently failing as a nation, but I don't believe that our nation is a failure. And I don't think the American people are failures. Well, the 50% or roughly 50% that voted for Joe Biden, I believe they failed when they voted Joe Biden into office. And certainly Joe Biden knows all about failing because he is failing miserably. He's failing in policy. His administration is failing. He's failing in the polls. So if there's anybody who knows anything about failing, it's Joe Biden. But I did ask the question, and that is our country a failing country? And 65-64 says our government as a whole is failing us. 56-50 with Biden, yes, failing to follow laws, protect, and defend equals failing. 32-57, we are a nation that is declining, not quite at the point of failure, more like a C- on the grading scale. See, that's the thing. Because I started thinking about this. Joe Biden has, when it comes to immigration, 18% approval rating on his handling of the southern border. I mean, that's like, I don't know what could be lower than an F. But clearly, the president, his polling numbers, he's not doing well, and he is failing. And that is what's going on. 1303, we are a failing nation, and Dan, it will be a miracle to get out of it. The people behind Biden want it to fail. He also says, Dan, I don't think Trump can pull us out of it. Just look at yesterday's vote on omnibus. When you have friends like that, who needs Democrats? Yeah, Republicans. I don't have the total numbers in front of me, but that spending bill passed. It really is basically an omnibus bill. And now you've got Republicans at war. The conservatives are really angry that this thing is passed. To be honest with you, the story doesn't interest me because there's no surprise there. I mean, were you surprised that the Republicans folded? Now, from what I'm hearing, and I haven't seen, all of the details on this, but from what I understand, there are absolutely no border protections whatsoever. And now you've got a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives who are really angry with Mike Johnson. And they should be. Because if that's true, if we didn't get any border protections, then why in the world did we go through all of this teeth gnashing in the first place? So if Joe Biden and the Democrats got everything that they wanted, because make no mistake, this is going to be seen or at least peddled in the narrative as a victory for Joe Biden. And it'll be peddled as a loss for Republicans. And how many times, this is why I never cover the stories, folks. This is why I never cover the stories about government shutdowns. Because at the end of the day, and I'm not a big fan of the whole term uniparty. For whatever reason, I don't like it. But this is one of those instances where it does feel like we worked way too closely with the Democrats. There's no money that's being cut from this budget. The Democrats are getting, seems to me, pretty much everything that they want. And you've got the Republicans that passed this thing. And from what I understand, from what I'm reading, there's not a lot of protections for the southern border. Meantime, we went through all of that drama with Kevin McCarthy. We went through all of the drama regarding, the spending bills previous to this. We have had continuing resolution after continuing resolution after continuing resolution. And here we are yet again with another continuing resolution, and nothing is going to change. So yeah, I just went through all that. I feel like our government as a whole is a failure. Republicans and Democrats alike. All right. So this is the headline from the Daily Wire. House passes another short-term spending bill rejecting conservative bid for border attachment. You ever wonder why we bother to go vote? I mean, have you ever just wondered why in the F do we bother to do this? I mean, I'm at the point where I'm sick of covering politics. I have to because it's my job, but it is the same crap every single time. The GOP-led House voted on Thursday to pass another short-term spending bill to avert a government shutdown over the objection of a group of conservative members who were angling to get border security reforms attached and rein in the national debt. So that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to put in some border security reforms and rein in the national debt. And apparently, Speaker Mike Johnson folded. And that is a problem. By a 314 to 108 tally, which was, I'm air quoting here, bipartisan, the lower chamber approved a measure to fund the various federal agencies in 2 stages, some through March 1st and others through March 8th, because the Democrat-controlled Senate already passed the spending legislation by a 77 to 18 vote. The bill now heads to the White House, where President Joe Biden will likely sign it. So here we are yet again. And this is why I don't like to cover politics. And I know that I have to cover this stuff. And I also understand that I have to vote, because part of my frustration is, why do I bother to go vote? Why do I bother to, cover the news? Because all of these guys ultimately, well, not all of these guys, but a lot of these guys, these political parties, they just do whatever they can to preserve their power and to preserve their ability to spend money and do the exact opposite of what the American people have to do. Because the American people, we look at our budgets and we don't have the money, man. We've got to make cuts. They don't have to make cuts. And what is the number one issue? Maybe it's number 2 for some folks, but one of the top issues that we have in this country is the border. The wide open southern border. It is a top issue. And for Mike Johnson and some of these folks in the House to agree to pass this thing, this continuing resolution, when we had conservatives who, and I'm sure that, Mark Green and some of these other folks, Andy Ogles probably, Scott Desjardins perhaps, I'm reasonably certain that the folks that represent most of us here in Middle Tennessee who are conservative did not vote for this. I'm reasonably certain. I've been disappointed before. But when you look at the fact that this is one of the major issues that is impacting America, and we wanted border protections, and the conservatives wanted border protections, and they weren't able to do it. And it passed out of the House anyway, and the American people have spoken loudly and clearly that we want our sovereignty protected, and those SOBs in the House passed this continuing resolution allowing the Senate to get away with what they're doing and allowing Joe Biden to get away with what he's doing and allowing wide open borders so that they can steal yet another election and the next election after that and the next election after that by importing an entirely new voting bloc. That is exactly what they're doing. And the Republican Party, hand in hand with the Democrats, have allowed this to happen yet again. It is so incredibly frustrating. And it makes you wonder what kind of border security reforms did the Republicans want? More Border Patrol agents? Closing the border? Having the Border Patrol agents simply do their jobs and protect the border as opposed to, as we discussed earlier, making sandwich and processing the illegal aliens? So what a complete and utter disappointment. And, Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House, my opinion, he looks really bad on this. Because they're hanging our country out to dry. So if you ask me right now at this moment, is our country a failure? Our lawmakers have failed us. It's almost like you look at our representatives, you look at our government, you look at our president, and it's like, you got one job. You got a lot of jobs, but you got one job. The biggest job is to protect the American people. But they leave the border wide open. And then those same people, here's the other thing. I want you to think about this. All those Democrats in the House of Representatives who are Democrats, who are, representing some of these cities like Philadelphia, San Francisco, Dallas, New York, these sanctuary cities, right? So the same people whose cities are being absolutely destroyed by illegal immigration voted for this spending bill, knowing full well that they would not allow the conservatives to attach the border security reforms that would protect not only our country, but more specifically, their cities. Because Greg Abbott is sending the illegals to their cities, and Biden is sending them all across America. And those Democrats will vote for those same people yet again. And those people in Chicago who are up there saying on the south side of Chicago, and they're up there saying, why are you putting the illegal aliens in front of us? And we're sick of it, and we're going to take matters into our own hands. I say to them yet again, you voted for these people. And why don't you check to see where your representatives voted on this continuing resolution? Because if your representatives in places like Chicago and whatever, if they voted for this continuing resolution to avert a shutdown without allowing the border security reforms attached to the legislation, well then those people got screwed yet again by illegal immigration. Because they passed the legislation without allowing the reforms attached. So there you go. So yeah, right now, I do feel like America is failing as a country. And it's not because of people like me, people like you, good, God-fearing, America-loving conservatives. No. It's because of Joe Biden It's because of the Democrats and the people that run our country. It is just unbelievably frustrating to read this kind of stuff and go through this every few months.